There's a 1,600-year-old iron pillar standing outside in Delhi, exposed to rain, humidity, and heat every single day. It should be a pile of rust by now. It isn't. Let's start with what you're actually looking at. A solid iron column over 7 meters tall, weighing around 6 tons, forged sometime in the 4th or 5th century during the Gupta Empire. An inscription near its base credits a king named Chandra. Here's the part that gets strange. Iron rusts. That's not a maybe, that's just chemistry. Leave iron outside, exposed to weather, and within a few decades you'll see serious corrosion. This pillar has been standing in the open for 16 centuries. It shows almost none. So what's actually going on here? For a long time, nobody had a solid answer. Some people jumped straight to wild explanations, ancient lost technology, even aliens. But researchers who actually studied the metal found something much more interesting than that. The real answer was hiding in the ironworking process itself. Metallurgist R. Balasubramaniam spent years analyzing this pillar directly, and here's what he found. The iron used contains an unusually high amount of phosphorus, and modern industrial iron production almost always removes phosphorus because it usually makes iron brittle. Ancient Indian ironworkers, without any of our modern understanding of chemistry, ended up doing the opposite. That's worth sitting with for a second. Modern engineers spent enormous effort figuring out how to strip phosphorus out of iron, treating it as a flaw to eliminate. The people who built this pillar never tried to remove it, and it turns out that decision, made without any concept of oxidation chemistry, is exactly what saved this thing from rusting away centuries ago. Now here's the thing that makes this genuinely clever. That phosphorus content, combined with the specific way this iron was forged, layer by layer through repeated hammering rather than cast in a mold, triggered a chemical reaction over time. Moisture in the air reacted with the phosphorus-rich iron to form a thin protective layer on the surface made of compounds scientists call misawite. Think of it like a shield the pillar built for itself, slowly, without anyone planning it that way. This layer isn't like paint sitting on top of the metal. It's chemically bonded to the iron itself, and it actually gets a tiny bit thicker over time as the reaction continues. Instead of rusting away, the pillar's surface protects the metal underneath from ever being exposed to the open air in the first place. Here's what should genuinely surprise you. Modern steel production, even now, struggles to reliably replicate this kind of long-term self-protection without adding synthetic coatings or alloys the ancient smiths never had access to. These forgers weren't using furnaces anywhere near as hot as ours. They were working with simpler tools, simpler techniques, and somehow ended up with a material that has outperformed nearly everything built after it. Let's put that in perspective. Modern iron and steel structures typically need regular maintenance, repainting, and anti-corrosion treatment every few years just to survive a human lifetime outdoors. This pillar has needed none of that, for longer than most civilizations have lasted. So why did this only happen here? Let's think about the scale of what these craftsmen actually achieved. Forging a solid iron piece over 7 meters tall in the 4th or 5th century, without modern furnaces or lifting equipment, was already an enormous technical achievement on its own, even before accounting for its corrosion resistance. Getting the metal composition and forging process to accidentally produce a self-protecting surface layer, on top of that, is almost an unbelievable stroke of combined skill and fortune. Researchers believe part of the answer comes down to the specific iron ore used in ancient India, which naturally contained higher phosphorus levels than ore commonly used elsewhere. Combine that raw material with a forging technique perfected over generations, and you get a result nobody was chasing on purpose, but that turned out to be remarkably effective anyway. Let's bring this back to why this actually matters. This wasn't magic, and it wasn't luck in the sense of a lucky guess. It was generations of ironworkers refining a craft, using the specific materials available to them, without ever running a single lab test or understanding the word phosphorus. They achieved something through practiced skill that took modern metallurgists centuries to even properly explain. So the next time you walk past a rusted fence or a corroded railing, remember this pillar. Somewhere in Delhi, a piece of metal older than most nations still standing today is quietly proving that ancient craftsmanship sometimes solved problems modern industry is still trying to catch up to. And here's the detail that really stays with you. Nobody who forged this pillar knew they were building something that would outlast their empire, their language, and their entire way of life. They were just doing their job the way they always had, using the iron they had access to, with techniques passed down from their teachers. The chemistry worked out in their favor almost by accident, and 16 centuries later, we're still studying it to understand exactly how.